We begin the show today with the latest on devastating earthquakes that have hit Turkey and killed over 2,300 people in Turkey and Syria. Residents were jolted by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake that flattened buildings and reduced everything to rubble. Horrific pictures coming out of Turkey. Shocked survivors rushed onto snow-covered streets as rescue workers dug through mounds of debris. The quake was centered north of Gaziantep, which is a Turkish provincial capital. It was so powerful that tremors were felt as far away as Cairo and even Greenland. Some of the heaviest devastation occurred near the quake's epicenter, where entire city blocks now lie in ruins, including a second-century historic castle. Currently, it's too early to estimate the complete death toll because hundreds are still believed to be trapped under the rubble. The search for survivors continues. So if you thought this was the worst, the toll is unfortunately expected to rise soon. On the other side of the border in Syria, destruction was even more devastating. At least 800 people have been killed in the war-torn nation. Thousands still remain trapped as rescue operations face difficulties. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan conveyed his sympathies.
Bu gece saat 04:17'de son bir asırda yaşadığımız 1939 Erzincan depreminden sonraki en büyük felaketle sarsıldık. Merkezi Kahramanmaraş'ın Pazarcık ilçesi olarak tespit edilen ve son değerlendirmeye göre momentensör büyüklüğü 7,7 olarak ölçülen deprem geniş bir alanda hissedildi.
And world powers have rushed to offer aid to both Turkey and Syria. India will be sending 2 teams of NDRF consisting of 100 personnel with specially trained dog squads. They will be flown to the earthquake-hit areas for search and rescue operations as well. All right, let me go across now to Professor Hüseyin Bağcı. He is the chairman of foreign policy at the Institute of Turkey. He's joining us from Istanbul, and I'm also speaking with Metin Khan Kurtulus, diplomatic editor and journalist of T24 Istanbul. I hope I'm pronouncing the names correctly. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. And really, India and the world is feeling what the Turkish people are feeling right now. So thank you for the time you've given us. Metin Khan, let me begin with you, just to understand what the latest situation is, because we've been seeing horrific pictures on social media, on TV channels. Can you describe what the extent of devastation has been?
Yeah, about an hour ago, Vice President Fatih Altaylı gave out the latest figures, which includes 1,541 dead, 9,732 injured, and 3,471 buildings have collapsed. These numbers are expected to rise significantly, mostly because a lot of buildings have collapsed, and there's a lot of areas that the civil officials, the army, the state officials haven't been able to reach yet, as the roads are cracked, or the airports are not working, or just harsh weather conditions. And at this point, cold is very much a factor which makes the whole situation a race against time, because if people are stuck under rubble, and we know there are tons of people stuck under collapsed buildings, they might get frozen because the weather is so cold. And at the same time, eventually people are going to starve, they need water, and there are still earthquake news coming in which might cause more collapsed buildings, and it might be fatal for people under the rubble.
So 3,400 buildings, that's the latest figure coming in. We can only imagine the extent of devastation and the total death toll. We'll have to wait and see how high it goes. Now, Professor Bağcı, considering that the world is talking about sending in relief and rescue operations, is it nearly enough? And are the resources within Turkey enough right now to deal with this scale of devastation?
Thank you for the question and for your great interest. definitely, this is one of the biggest earthquakes Turkey has experienced in the last 100 years. And the aid coming from outside, all the countries around the world, starting from the neighboring countries, from Iraq, Iran, Egypt, and even Greece and Azerbaijan, all the people all over the world, even the United Nations and NATO countries, European Union, they all started, of course, to provide offer to help to Turkey. And Turkish government seems to accept, at least so far, the Polish offer has been already accepted, and many other countries are on the way to provide the support. And I think Turkish government, one by one, will provide the permission that they send their teams to help to Turkish people to get them out from this miserable earthquake conditions.
You know, the other real concern in a tragedy of this scale and devastation of this scale, Professor Bağcı, is your medical facilities. Your hospitals will be overrun for those who have survived, and then housing for those whose homes have just collapsed. How is this being managed by the government there? Are they able to manage this at all?
We hope so. Turkey had before also similar experiences, but the question is how much lessons learned. Therefore, the Turkish military and even the civilian non-governmental organizations, they are all trying to help. The entire Turkish nation is now sending a lot of food, clothes, and many things that those people need for survival. I think the Turkish state as an organization definitely trying to do best, but how far it will be successful totally is an open question, because the situation is very, very unexpected. And we hope, of course, that Turkey will reduce the pains of those people who suffer.
Metin, we know that there have been several aftershocks after these three major quakes. I saw a report that said there have been at least 100 aftershocks. Can you give us a bit more detail about this? And what is the plan in case there are, stronger aftershocks or another quake in place? Is there any clarity on what is happening right now and preparations for more aftershocks?
We are talking about 120 aftershocks, and we are talking about a second earthquake that has happened at 1:30 p.m. Turkish time today in Kahramanmaraş again, which was scaled at 7.5 in magnitude. And there's expected that there might be more aftershocks, and the second earthquake wasn't really expected. So this is all, a lot of things are being played by ear. Of course, Turkey is an earthquake country. Almost 66% of Turkey lives under risk of Turkish lands are under risk of an earthquake at any time. So Turkish government has policies and plans set in situations like this. But as Mr. Bağcı said, this scale is really big. We are talking about 10 provinces being affected by it, and we are not just saying affected. There are tons of collapsed buildings in all 10 provinces. So it's harder to plan. Lots of buildings are being unattended. Lots of areas are not reached yet. They're not getting help. So the first plan, the first state of play should be getting help to these areas. And we are hearing announcements about lots of different countries are sending in help, from Britain to United States to Greece. And obviously this might make the situation faster. But currently, if there are more aftershocks, I don't really think that's something you can plan against. That's just the nature, and the whole area is really devastated. So first things first, they would need to get the situation under control, reach areas that has been unreachable so far.
Absolutely. Our prayers go out to the people of Turkey and, of course, Syria, who are facing this calamity. Thank you so much, Metin and Professor Bağcı, for joining us today in the middle of all of this and just giving us a sense of what's going on in your country. We hope things will get better soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.